The names I'll use here are made up for privacy. My name is Claire, my husband's is Tom, and our son's is Evan. What happened to us took place in October 2017 at a small rental house on the outskirts of Flagstaff, Arizona. We had moved there 3 months earlier, chasing a quieter life away from the noise of Phoenix. It was meant to be a fresh start, a clean slate after years of city stress. We didn't know how wrong we were. The night it began was colder than usual, the kind of desert cold that sinks in without warning. The house sat at the edge of a forested road with a narrow driveway that curved into darkness. Streetlights didn't reach that far. By the time the sun set, the woods beyond the fence became a wall of black. We had just finished dinner when the first knock came, sharp, deliberate, echoing through the thin wooden door. It startled all three of us because we weren't expecting anyone. Tom was still rinsing dishes, and Evan was sprawled on the couch watching something on his tablet. The knock came again. 2 quick raps, then silence. We exchanged a look. Visitors weren't common here, especially after dark. I walked to the window and peeked through the blinds. 2 children stood on the porch, a boy and a girl, both motionless under the porch light, their clothes too thin for the weather. The boy wore a hooded jacket zipped to his chin. The girl's hair hung straight and still. They didn't move or look around, just stood there side by side, staring at the door. Something felt wrong immediately. Their stillness wasn't natural. They weren't shivering despite the cold. Their heads tilted slightly upward, as if they already knew I was watching. I stepped back. The knock came again, softer this time. The sound was steady, not desperate, not playful, just unnervingly controlled. Tom came over, wiping his hands, and looked through the peephole. He froze. I didn't need to ask what he saw. I could tell from how his breathing changed. He stepped back, shaking his head slightly, eyes wide. The knock came once more, louder now. The sound vibrated through the wood. Evan turned down his tablet and looked toward the door, confused. I told him to stay where he was. The porch light flickered once, twice, then went out completely. The hallway dimmed, shadows stretching across the walls. The air inside the house grew colder, as if a draft had slipped in through the cracks. Tom grabbed the flashlight from the counter and shone it through the window. The beam cut through the darkness. The porch was empty, the steps, the railing, even the dirt path leading to the driveway. Empty. No footprints, no movement. Just the distant hum of wind through the trees. We both stood there for what felt like minutes, waiting for something. But nothing came. I tried to laugh it off, to convince myself it was just kids from a nearby house, though none were visible from ours. We locked the doors, turned off the lights, and went back to the living room. Evan had fallen asleep on the couch. The stillness of the house felt unnatural now, like holding your breath for too long. Around 11 p.m, I woke to the sound of scratching. It came from the living room window, faint at first, then louder, a slow, deliberate drag of fingernails against glass. I froze in bed. The sound stopped. Then came a soft knock, this time on the back door. Tom was awake instantly. He grabbed the flashlight again and stepped into the hallway. I followed close behind, heart racing. The sound came again, not pounding, not frantic, but slow and precise, as if whoever was knocking knew exactly how to make it echo. He pointed the beam toward the door. The light hit 2 shapes through the window. The children again, the same ones. The boy's hood was still up, the girl's hair motionless. Their faces were clearer now, and that's when I saw it. Their eyes, completely black. No whites, no reflection. Just endless, glossy darkness swallowing the light. The flashlight beam hit them directly, but their eyes didn't react. It was like shining light into a void. Tom lowered the beam, muttering something under his breath. The boy raised a hand and pressed it flat against the glass. His skin looked wrong. Pale, almost grey, veins faintly visible beneath. The girl did the same, her small palm matching his perfectly. The glass fogged slightly where their hands touched it, even though it was freezing outside. The knocking started again, this time from the front door. Slow, even, measured. Evan woke up and began crying from the couch. I ran to him, whispering for him to stay quiet. The knocking grew louder, alternating between the front and back doors. Each impact echoed through the frame, shaking the pictures on the wall. Tom yanked open the hallway closet, grabbed a hammer, and motioned for me to stay with Evan. The lights in the living room flickered once, then went out completely. Only the flashlight beam remained, jittering as his hand trembled. The house was drowning in cold. My breath came out in visible clouds, and then, all at once, it stopped. No sound, no knocking, no scratching, only the hum of silence. I held Evan close, feeling his heartbeat against my chest. Tom slowly lowered the flashlight, scanning each door, each window. Nothing moved. The beam caught the reflection of something outside, faintly. 2 figures standing at the edge of the driveway, perfectly still. He locked eyes with them. The boy's head tilted slightly to the left. The girl raised her hand again, but this time she wasn't touching glass. She was pointing directly at us. The flashlight flickered out. I don't know how long we stood in that darkness. I remember only the sound of my own heartbeat and Evan's trembling breaths. Then slowly, the porch light came back on. The figures were gone. We waited another hour before daring to move. Every sound in the house made me flinch. The hum of the fridge, the ticking of the clock, the groan of the pipes. When we finally opened the curtains, the night looked normal again. Peaceful even. The forest beyond the fence was still, the gravel untouched. Tom went outside at dawn to check the porch. I watched from the window. The boards creaked under his steps. He crouched, then stood still for several seconds before walking back inside. There were 2 small handprints on the door, black smears shaped like soot, smaller than Evan's. And below them, faintly etched into the paint, was something I hadn't seen before. 2 overlapping circles, drawn so lightly it looked more like a fingerprint pattern than a symbol. We didn't understand what it meant. But as the sun rose higher, the prints began to fade. By noon, they were gone completely, leaving no mark, no residue. We spent the rest of the day in silence. Every sound made us jump. Evan refused to go near the windows. Tom barely spoke. I couldn't stop replaying the images, those eyes, that stillness, the pointing hand. That evening, as the light faded again, we drove into town. I needed to be around people, noise, life. We stopped at a small diner near Route 66, and while Tom ordered coffee, I searched the internet for what we'd seen. It didn't take long to find stories, hundreds of them. Descriptions that matched ours word for word. Pale children, black eyes, knocks at night, the same creeping dread that follows after. But one post stood out. It was dated 10 years earlier, written by someone who had lived less than 5 miles from our house. They described the same knocking, the same 2 children. Their post ended with a line that stuck in my head. They come to remind you of what you've lost, not to take anything away. I didn't understand it then. But over the next few days, I started to notice something strange. The atmosphere in the house had changed. The air didn't feel heavy anymore. The hallway lights no longer flickered. The cold draft was gone. Even Evan, who had refused to sleep alone since that night, began to laugh again. The fear slowly lifted, like fog burned off by sunlight. One afternoon, while organising old boxes in the closet, I found a photo I hadn't seen in years. It was of 2 neighbourhood kids we'd known when Evan was little. twins who used to play outside our old apartment complex before their family moved away. The picture was sun-faded, but I recognized them immediately. The boy had a hooded jacket. The girl's hair was straight and dark, both smiling, their eyes bright. I stared at the photo for a long time. Something inside me shifted. The memory of that night, the knocking, the eyes, didn't feel the same anymore. The terror remained, but beneath it was something else, a sense that whatever we'd seen wasn't random, that maybe, just maybe, it was meant to remind us of something we'd forgotten, the innocence of childhood, the fear of losing it, the fragility of life itself. We never saw them again. The night stayed quiet. The air felt lighter. Sometimes when I'm on the porch, I still imagine those handprints faintly glowing under the paint, two perfect shapes fading into morning light. But I no longer feel fear. I feel awareness. That there are things we don't understand. Yes, but maybe not all of them are meant to harm. Some might just be reminders that we're still here, still living, still able to choose not to be afraid.